this is the second Death from Below interview that we've managed to do. This time we're with SACRILEGIA, whose last EP, Sold Under Sin, came out in 2022, which was recorded during the bubonic plague, back in that era. And this is Jason and this is Diego. Jason and I know each other for about 10 years. Jason bought a t-shirt off me that was too small.
Yeah.
I needed to exchange it, so I dropped out to my old HQ in Ranelagh, and then ended up working with me for a couple of years and forming SACRILEGIA along with Diego. And Diego is all the way from Brazil, so he has a completely different experience when it comes to all things metal than the rest of us. But the reason we're here is SACRILEGIA is working on some new material and have tonight to display some of their new songs. So we're going to start with today and work our way backwards. So tell us about the new material.
Yeah, we've been working on new songs for a while now, and we're still putting things together, and it's not like close to be finished right now, but we plan to be ready by the end of the year and record like new songs for a full length, and which would be like essentially our first full length in a sense that the first one we recorded in such a rush,
yeah,
that this time we're more prepared, and I think we have like a better idea of what you want to do,
yeah,
with our music and with all the themes and everything. So
I think that's a good point to mention that the first album, the Triclavian Advent, was never meant to be an album.
No.
You went to Rome to record with Marco from The Forge, and it was supposed to be a demo, and when you sent it to me, it was like, hang on a second, we can't, this is too good, can't be a demo. So we managed to work out an idea that we put on a bit of an intro to extend it, to bring it up to like half an hour, like Rain in Blood.
Yeah, well, yeah, like if you look at the like old albums, old classics, and like they weren't really longer than 30-35 minutes, and so these are the kind of albums that you usually play over and over again. And we thought like we might as well just have like a short material that is like worth like showing to people as one piece,
yeah,
than just having two demos that might not attract as many people, you know. So at the time it made sense, and I don't think we regret it at all, you know. Like it worked out for us.
We got a lot of mileage out of that in terms of shows, gigs, festivals, and we still play a lot of that material to this day.
Yeah, it worked out well. It was a good idea at the time. So I suppose for anybody who's uninitiated, the style is I suppose black thrash. You know, in the vein of, you know, kind of Destroyer, Gospel, Abzu, that kind of stuff. So kind of influence-wise and style-wise, who would be the reference points for you guys when you're kind of sitting down putting music together, ideas-wise and everything?
Well, yeah, Destroyer, Abzu would be two sort of core to the sound of the band, but individually we have very different tastes.
Yeah.
Morbid Angel would be a massive one for me, probably the biggest. You'd be surprised where you can hide that style in this genre.
Yeah. So stylistically then, like the evolution of SACRILEGIA, because there's a bit of time out, like this came out in 2022, and I know that it was recorded kind of a couple of different sessions. The main recording was done up in Hellfire in Dublin, and then remember in Last Light.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So it was a bit disjointed in that sense, but that was the era as well. So stylistically, where would you think you guys are moving to now with the new material?
Well, I think that for this one, for example, the greatest bulk of the material was recorded like all at once, but then like extra guitars and vocals were recorded later. So that's pretty much everything that was recorded separately from the first session. But I think that's like we're trying to understand like what works for us, and like not to be so repetitive with our songs as well. So we're trying new things out, but we don't plan to change massively from what we have already done, you know. So there's always like a small step ahead when you ever try to do something new, and but like suppose that people expect to relate to something that they have already listened from you, you know. So we don't want to move away too much from what we've done.
So no cherry orchards.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
The way I look at it is like each release is a bit of an evolution. So the demo was kind of the sound we had put together and we were really happy with, and then it turned out to be an album. This one here was a bit more of a development on that sound. We were getting into it, we knew what we wanted to sound like. Some more traditional heavy metal elements here and there on that, and then just now for the next one we're trying to expand on different lyrical ideas, different soundscapes even, and just different guitar styles instead of the usual.
So I suppose, like, because the first album was originally intended as a demo, so like your way of looking at it was particular, but this way you're looking. So in a sense, this is almost like your first album, because you're going at it like this is an album. We're recording this as an album, not recording this as in kind of a sense of like figuring out what the band is.
No, it's be the first one we're going in fully with a full idea, full form idea of what we want to do, and the first two are just refining that sound.
Yeah, because when you start like making music, not in life, but I mean with new people, right? You just like start a new band. I think that we all have expectations of what we want to sound. Yeah. But because we're just playing with like different people as well, we will come up in a different way than you expected, and that's all part of the creative process, I suppose. Like if you already know what you're gonna have at the end, then you're not really being creative, you know. So we changed a lot along the way, but it's still gonna sound nasty and lots of like riffs and heavy as fuck. That's what we want.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. So I suppose going back to the beginning, how did Sacrilegia come to be? Like, how did you two get together? What was the impetus that drove you to create Sacrilegia?
Yeah, I remember asking you if there was anyone around. You know, I'd been to a lot of your gigs and different gigs, just wondering, who was there to play with that isn't already in a band that's well established. And you had mentioned Diego, exchanged numbers, we met at a gig and just sort of set up a rehearsal in one of these pay per hour studios and took it from there. Tried out a bunch of different people, didn't really work out, but we decided. At the time there was plenty of two-piece bands around, so we figured that's probably why not? Why let other people stand in our way? Yeah.
And the first gig was with Possession.
We were actually just filling in for Inconcessus, yes, because there was an issue with their flight, if I remember well, and then they couldn't come in, and then we just jumped in like last minute. But if I remember well as well, like when we formed the band, it was that time that like Dublin had a very strong death metal scene. Like the Zone was still around, and Malthusian were playing shows here all the time, and I also kind of felt that all the bands had like this like wall of sound, like kind of style, and I didn't want to do anything like that. So I wanted to do something that is more focused on guitars and we can get all the riffs clearly, and like vocals are an intrinsic part of it as well, as in part of the melody and everything. So it was somewhat a way to detach the sound from that it was already being done around, and we didn't want to compete or anything. It was just like we don't want to be just another band doing something that people around us is doing,
Have your own style.
Exactly, And then again, like it's very hard to escape from the influences we already have. And I do listen to that kind of music a lot as well. So I suppose that Jason is the same.
And I suppose, okay, so thematically, what kind of is the focus of Sacrilegia's lyrics? What are the concepts behind it?
Well, they all revolve around religion in a kind of rotten way. We didn't want to go the kind of satanic route and just like try to reproduce what other bands did, and we wanted to sound more original in that sense. So it's always related to religion in the sense that it's something that belongs to the life of many people in different ways, and it can be damaging in different ways as well. And nowadays there's this like crisis of like spirituality and everything, so we kind of address some of these topics, but each song has its own like theme. We don't try to do like a
full concept album.
So
Okay, so there's plenty of different kind of, you know, broad topics in and around the concepts of religion
Yeah,
and
well,
the dissolution of.
Yeah, I always wanted to address this in a sense that like religion is corroding from the inside rather than something trying to be against it, you know,
Yeah,
like a group of people trying to be against it rather than religion itself and spirituality in the modern world like corroding itself nowadays, which is a thing at least in the Western world.
So Diego comes from Brazil originally and came to Ireland in what, 2014? That's when we first met. So in your experience having moved there, like Brazil is obviously such a huge country. How do you find, like, what is the local metal scene for you here versus where you came from?
Well, I always expected, like, like European scenes to be a lot more prepared in terms of like infrastructure.
Yeah.
And once you move in and then you start playing in bands and you see that, well, it's as hard as anywhere else, like of course, like it's easier to buy instruments and get to know people. Traveling is much easier here as well, but the difficulties are all there, so it's not very difficult in that sense, but people's attitudes towards heavy metal as a music genre can be very different, like Brazil in particular is a very kind of over the top, far-fetched place for that. Like Sarcophago, like put that kind of visual thing out there, extremity. So the bands in Brazil are always looking for ways to be more extreme than the other. While here, it's not a necessity, like you want to do that and to connect with that music in a different way. And I kind of miss a little bit of that, that extremity, but it has very good aspects as well. So things get done, and you. Like people are usually very positive about doing things and moving ahead. While in Brazil, most bands want to just stay the same. They want to reproduce their first album like over and over again. So they don't look at it as in, well, we want to move forward and do something different. So I think that's the main difference between South American scenes and, the Brazilian scene and Ireland at least.
And you want to play in Brazil sometime?
Obviously.
Yeah. Done enough in Europe anyway, so get off the continent. All right, so we're going to wrap this up, and so the aim is to get an album written by the end of the year.
Probably
I would say even recorded by the end of the year.
Yeah, probably recorded.
Okay, cool. So some new Sacrilegia material coming quite soon. All right, Diego, Jason. Thank you. Cheers.